get started? Okay. We got everyone 1 minute. Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. If you guys haven't put your headphones on, definitely would start doing that now. But great to see everyone here today. And today we're really going to be talking about how do we actually use AI in Amazon advertising specifically. I think the past 2 years have been very transformative across the industry, especially in the past 12 months. We've seen a huge shift in the capabilities of different AI tools from large language models, but also different software providers. So today, we're talking about setting the strategy and letting AI execute. We'll just start here, a little bit of background on Xnerda and who we are. We are a global ad tech company and with a large focus on innovation around AI, machine learning, and then also data analysis. We have 400 employees across the globe, 10 global offices, including in Seattle and London here in Europe, and a small contingent in Berlin as well. We've been around since 2020, and through that, we've been a strong partner of Amazon throughout the years. And through our experience, we felt there was a real need to change the status quo, especially around performance marketing and optimization. And with that, we've been well rewarded by Amazon. So we've won the Technology Innovation Award, which is a global award twice. In 2023, we won it for our AI optimization platform for sponsored ads. And then in 2024, we won it once again, but for our Amazon Marketing Cloud solutions. Now, with that, we're partnered beyond Amazon because we all know your businesses go beyond just one channel. So we can also support Walmart and Criteo as well. And last year, we were very lucky to win 2 Amazon Partner Awards. Again, our solutions are really specialized in a few areas. And with this, we want to incorporate AI into your strategies through each one of these different channels. So Amazon Marketing Cloud, how can you leverage clean room environments, automate this analysis, remove any coding to actually pull up insights and action them. Amazon sponsored ads and different retail media networks, Amazon DSP, and then Walmart as well. So just to cover the agenda for today, we're going to really focus in first on the workflow and how people are currently managing, optimizing, and reporting on Amazon ads. But this also applies to every retail media network out there as well. We'll talk a little bit about the future of software and AI development. There's very interesting developments with MCPs, different agents like Claude, Copilot, and LangDoc, and how those are going to be connected and what that looks like from a specialized software perspective as well. We'll take a look at full funnel advertising. I know it's quite a buzzword across the industry, but when done right and orchestrated well, it is a true engine for growth for all businesses, whether it's on Amazon, but across other channels as well. We'll take a look at rules-based automation versus AI. So rules-based has been the best practice and the status quo from the inception of Amazon ads since there are APIs all the way to the near present here. But that's quickly changed. And AI is increasing precision, performance, and reducing the time spent here. So then we can take that time and reinvest it into our strategies. And then the last few points here, we'll take a look at AMC, Amazon Marketing Cloud. Aside from AI, AMC has been a crucial development that Amazon's released in the past few years, giving true access to very precise user-level data and metrics that we could never see before. These can all be inputted back into your business from those insights, but it's very challenging to access them and not readily available to everyone. So we really want to make strides to democratize that. And lastly, we'll look at some real-world use cases and then some final takeaways at the end. So it's a question for the crowd, and I can't hear you, but if you take a moment and think, as an operator, how many hours per week are you really spending on manual campaign optimization and reporting? It's quite significant. And even if you are a business owner as well, this is what your team is spending time on. And through a survey, that's ended up being just around 19 hours per week. So almost half of a 40-hour work week is spent on operational tasks. So when we want to push our employees to do better, push our teams, how can we drive more performance? These are manual, repetitive tasks, which is the first application of AI and automation. These should not be done by humans every single day. So with this roughly 19 hours, how can we reinvest that to be more strategic, go through analysis, look at the data, and make decisions and find insights that are actually going to move our business forward versus paying people to spend this much time on manual tasks. And that time is really focusing on these few areas. So performance monitoring. Now, we have to come in every single day, check, monitor, see what's going on with our campaigns. If you have an incredibly large catalog, this is going to take even longer. How can you really, as one person, sit through and analyze 10,000 products, 10,000 campaigns, and make sure everything's performing on par? And if you're an agency, this problem is actually much bigger because you have to do this across 10, 15 accounts, however many your team is managing. And in Europe, the problem is even further escalated because we're dealing with not just Germany or the UK, 5 to 10 different marketplaces here. So between the monitoring of performance, analysis and insights is probably what we want to spend our time on, right? This is going to be what's actually going to drive forward. How can we find gaps in our business and come up with solutions to fix those? Then budget pacing. Everyone's got fixed budgets. We have bosses we need to report to. We have things that are set from our trade marketing perspective that we can't deviate from, and making sure we're pacing to that accordingly. Underpacing can be just as bad as overpacing sometimes. And then reporting. This ends up taking the most time and is often the least incremental to what anyone's trying to do in terms of driving performance. But it is necessary because you have to use this either for your clients or for different internal stakeholders. And it's a lot of work for someone to take one look at it and go, oh, that's good. On top of that, there's rising expectations of everyone. Across our industry, we've seen that there's rising fee pressure, margins are getting squeezed, and that all comes from the brands to the agency, even to tech providers as well. So the winning teams in 2026 has stopped doing this optimization work themselves. They're directing it to using AI. And we've also tried to do this through rules-based automation. AI is going to be intelligently learning and far more precise, and it will avoid mistakes. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. So that's our current state. A lot of time spent on these, almost half the week for every full-time employee. And then what does the future look like? So with the recent developments of Claude, ChatGPT, and other LLMs, there is a rising theory that software is not going to be about interfaces anymore. It will migrate to what's called a headless fashion. And headless has been a term in the software industry forever. It's nothing new, but what's new is this front end. So how many people here use Claude on a daily basis? I mean, it's the majority of the room, right? And I use Claude all the time. It connects to my email, connects to my CRM, connects to even different tools that we use. And I can combine everything in one place and actually get real analysis and things done. I can monitor what's going on across my team in a matter of seconds. It's even scheduled to do it for me every day, versus what would take me 2 hours in the morning to comb through and see what everyone's been doing. So with this, I'm not actually spending as much time in my other software platforms. I'm spending more of it in Claude. And this is that headless fashion because these software platforms are still doing their job in the background, but I'm only interacting with them through a different medium, which would be my agent in this case. So whether you're using Claude, something like a LangDoc, ChatGPT, or Copilot, this headless source, this front end, is going to connect all your different data sources. So we look at this from an advertising perspective. That's retail reporting, internal dashboards that you can build connectors to. We can look at different software solutions as well. So maybe you have an Xnerta for advertising. You have a different software for retail reporting. You have own internal goals that you want to train your agent to be looking at things through. With this, you're connecting everything in one place, and AI is the engine connecting all of those as well. So with this, you're going to have a lot of connectivity across all of your different tools, and you're going to be able to plug in different tools very easily. The tools are there to execute the outcomes. So the role of software and SaaS platforms is more so in the specialization of executing the actions that you want done, whether that's a CRM or even a tool like Xnerta. So what this really looks like is I log in to Claude for the day. I'd ask it for a performance review of last week. What are three priorities that we're working on this week? Maybe we need to push different product lines. We need to sell through these products, or we need to aim for more efficiency across these different product lines. I would communicate with Claude or my agent, figure out an action plan, and then that gets pushed to tools like Xnerta to go and execute. So again, you have like this central command center that you're working with, and then using the actual specialized SaaS tools to execute it. And the end result of this is going to be a lot more connectivity. You're going to be looking at data in your business from a much higher perspective, where you can actually combine things. And with that, you'll probably execute more actions than you ever would before. So that's our first path. Maybe one day we don't use any software tools. We're just working out of Claude. Then the second path, which is very much live and well today, are native agents. So these are things like what Xnerta has built from our insight agents and reporting agents. Interactive chat interfaces within the software platform that can do things like analysis and then go through and execute actions. So custom-built agents will exist inside of different software platforms, and these are for people that just want something out of the box that's ready to use, specialized for their purpose. So for me, if I'm an ad manager, I'm really only focused on media buying. I just need an agent for that. And that will exist within Xnerta or any software platform for that. So what can this do? They're going to be highly specialized. So the agents that are going to be natively built into software platforms are going to be built exactly for that purpose. For us, that would be Amazon Ads, DSP, AMC, and retail media. So with that, you're getting essentially an expert that can analyze and read data that humans couldn't even comprehend just due to the size in 5 minutes. And this could either be data that you would miss or hours and a team spent trying to draw these insights. It's going to surface up those insights for you and then push those out as real-time optimizations and execute them. So again, the results are the same. You have faster decisions, smarter optimizations. You're doing more output than you would before, but it doesn't have the same connectivity that maybe this headless world does. So where are we today? These agents already exist. And there's two ways to really execute AI when you're looking at it from a strategic perspective. Do I want the human in the loop? And I think at this day and age, many people still do. So we want the human approving actions, understanding what's going on, and being that one who's making the decision at the end of the day. As these models improve and the technology improves, we're going to continue moving into autonomous. So we have many tasks that operate autonomously now. For example, bidding, when we look at that, AI bidding is one of the core use cases for it. Analyzing data as it's coming in live and making precise adjustments versus how I would look maybe once a day and make changes. That's autonomous. There's certain things it can do really well. They generally have to do with math. What it can't take in yet is additional business context. So that's why you have the co-pilot function as well, where you're owning the strategy, making the changes, and the AI is doing that 24/7 implementation and optimization. So you stay responsible for oversight, strategy, execution, and reporting, while AI is assisting you from everything. You're still the owner of that task. And then when you move to a more autonomous setup, AI is actually owning all of those end to end, and you're just receiving the output. And when we look at the agency reality today, it's a lot of the points I've also touched on, right? Like you have tremendous fee pressure. Brands, everything, budgets are tight. There's things like tariffs, supply chain issues, wars even going on that are squeezing margins. And with this, there comes this fee pressure. So we can't charge as much for our services as before. What this results in, more accounts, more work towards every full-time employee that you have. On top of this, to have a business that's very large, could probably build out an in-house function, to transfer their performance to you as that responsibility, there's very high expectations. And with this, how can you deliver on those high expectations when your team is getting overworked, they have more accounts to deal with, and they have tools that do automate this for them, but are still time consuming. And the first attempt to fix this problem at scale was rules-based automation. And when we look at rules-based automation, it removed a lot of the manual time, but still surfaces up different errors. And that's because it's very static. So what can rules do? Rules make changes to bids, budgets, multipliers. They can harvest keywords, pause campaigns. Think about any action you do on Amazon in terms of trying to get better campaign performance. Rules can do that, but what a rule simply is an if-then statement. So if this happens, do this, exactly. So that's where they do end up falling short, is things like quick changes in the market conditions. Maybe you run out of stock, your competitor drops their price, or even you go viral on TikTok or a different channel. Those changes in market conditions aren't going to be captured by your rules because you set them in different conditions, looking at different data sets. So with something like AI, it will adapt to real-time data, and these changes aren't static. And when I look at rules, they're only as effective as the person that built them. So you need to have a lot of expertise and knowledge around advertising and performance media to build rules that are ultimately going to be effective. If I am kind of a rookie, don't really know what I'm doing fully, how could I build rules that are actually going to be impactful? They can very often be harmful too. And while we're saving time, making more changes, do we know if they're the right changes? And that's the main problem with rules-based automation. And then the last risk you have with rules is you have to be able to orchestrate them together. If I have rules on top of search placement modifiers and rules on my base bids, if multiple things get triggered, now all of a sudden I've bid $20 for a keyword when my product only costs $10, that can happen. So they're static, they do automate, and they do require orchestration. And this ends up causing a lot of additional time to be spent maintaining these rules. So even when you look at that 18 hours in terms of time spent for a regular marketing manager or operator, that still comes with automation that they're doing, but it has to be maintained overall. So when we look at the AI advantage, now the first thing I think about is data-driven decision making. So AI is working off a goal at the end. And I think every business should just take a step back, think about what the goals are, and the in-between is how can we get that as efficiently as possible. So doing that, AI looks at the goal, which could be a performance criteria, any KPI you're really striving for, and then it's going to do all those same actions that you want rules-based automation to do. Instead, you have this precision. So with that precision, it means, I'll give you a very simple example. If I need to hit a ROAS of 5 and it falls to 4.8, under a rules-based decision making, that would say decrease my bid by 10%. If you're looking at AI, it's going to maybe decrease it by 5.7%, whatever is precisely needed at the moment. And this is important in a couple different ways. We want to make precise adjustments so we don't lose out on sales velocity or visibility. And with this, you're also going to reduce any wasted ad spend as well. So make sure your media dollars are being spent at the exact rate that you need and the exact price. And then also doing this consistently on an hourly basis if necessary. And then the other part that you get here is the perfect orchestration of all different optimizations. So like I said, that worst case scenario where you have multiple rules trigger at once and you're rapidly overpaying and burning money on maybe clicks that you don't need. AI is looking at the end goal and it knows all the actions it has to do. It can orchestrate all those at once because it's owning every single one of those. So you eliminate this risk for overlapping situations where you end up wasting money. And then the final point here is AI in Xnerta does something called consistent testing and rapid learning. So it's always going to look at performance, identify maybe potential keywords, targets that we need to test some bid exploration on this. So it can spike bids, gather data, and then bring them back down to find new performance. And this is just something that a human would never be able to keep up with at scale, especially when you're thinking about a large vendor. How could we possibly do this across the thousands of keywords that they're targeting? And that orchestration becomes even more important when you look at the entire marketing funnel. So I'm sure all of you are investing in upper funnel, mid funnel, and lower funnel tactics. How can we connect the data from all of those and then make sure that we're investing our dollars in the right places and not wasting any spend? If our goal is new to brand, how are we using our upper funnel to drive those new to brand shoppers, and then our lower funnel to convert them and not waste any money in between? So we can do that a couple of different ways. A lot of that comes from the time that you get back to do analysis through AMC, and then also AI orchestrating everything. And AMC has made speed non-negotiable. I think AMC 4 years ago, or 2 years ago, in 2024, I thought by the end of the year, every single person was going to be an expert in using AMC. Unfortunately, that didn't become the case. Then I thought the same thing in 2025, and we made more progress overall, but the people that are really adopting this are really starting to see a competitive advantage. And by the end of 2026, if you can fully integrate this into your workflows and your business, you're going to be gaining insights that your competitors aren't probably accessing right now. And what can we do with AMC? I mean, we can activate very specific audiences for sponsored ads and DSP, improve efficiency, and then also improve our reach overall. We can look at analysis, our budget recommendations, make sure we're spending on every single ad type in a way that's going to drive the most new to brand sales, overall purchases, whatever your business goal really is. It gives you access into data that you never had previously. And what I've found, the biggest reason why people haven't used this yet is that time. No one has the time to go and, one, learn how to write SQL to access the data, or two, just find time in your day to learn how to use this and consistently integrate it into your workflow. So when we look at one of our clients, Hint. So Hint is one of the largest beverage brands in the US. They focus on different flavored waters and seltzers, and they had a few primary challenges. So one, very small team. There were like 3 of them managing a fairly large business from the media side. Their category growth had plateaued. And with this, they were doing a lot of manual optimization, and they were also leveraging another tool that gave them rules-based automation. So with this small team, big goals, stagnant growth, they were trying to look for a different change. So they weren't really leveraging AMC, and they weren't really leveraging DSP in its full capabilities because all their time was spent optimizing sponsored ads. So what we implemented for them was the 24/7 optimization, and then also gave them access to AMC to enhance all of this. So they transitioned all of their existing campaigns to AI, did this for keyword targeting, bid multipliers, AMC audiences as well. And then there's the activation piece of AMC, which came from the audiences, but these audiences are built out of insights. So we can look at different models that we have, like our cross-product association, and figure out which products can be sold together, where is our next purchase going to happen, and what should we be bundling together, looking at customer lifetime value, reinvesting budget into those campaigns that are going to drive more LTV versus just that initial ROAS, and then build audiences targeting new-to-brand shoppers specifically. So making sure our dollars are being spent on the most incremental tactics. And we activated this through sponsored ads bid boosting. And then the results here is, when we look at this, there was an increase in spend of around 11%. But really, I like to point out this 48% improvement in conversion rate. So not only are we driving more sales and more efficiency, we're increasing the amount of people that are converting off our ads because we're finding the right shoppers. And all this resulted in a 46% improvement in ROAS. And then now after this, the client runs 96% of their spend through AI on top. And if we look at the actions that AI performed during this time, there's over 220,000 different actions. Whether it's bid changes, finding new keywords, day parting, this is what the AI is doing 24/7. And even with those 18 hours a day, I couldn't do 200,000 different changes. And we look at the time reduction and savings of leveraging AI in this way. We look at campaign optimization. They were even spending 7 hours a week. Now that time is spent down to 1 or 2. Reporting, that could also take another 7 hours. That's, again, reduced down to 1 hour per week. And then in terms of building campaigns for different products, with Xnerta, that's now down to 3 minutes per campaign, when before that was taking them over a whole hour to find targets, build, and implement them. And then when we look at this, I also don't think rules-based automation is dead. It's not over. I think there's always a use case for rules-based automation because I use rules when I think about what are business implications that AI can't take into account and build my rules around that. So it's a floor. It's not a ceiling. We also have rules-based automation in Xnerta alongside AI because the two are both necessary. But when we look at the majority of your work, that should be leveraged by AI so you can take that time back that you had before. And when we're talking about AI, these are all the different actions that it can do. So constantly updating budgets, bids, keywords, rapid testing, explainability. So AI being able to tell you why it's doing what it's doing to build trust. And then we can do the same thing for DSP as well. And then if we want to look at time saving specifically from an agency perspective, one of our clients, Vinculum, did exactly that. So they've leveraged Xnerta for several years now at this point. And through that, they found a lot of efficiencies in their workflows and reinvest that time. So we can look at the performance improvement for the client, but we know that should be expected. What I like to focus in on is a 20% reduction in time savings. So with that time, that's the most important thing that AI can give back to you because now you're reinvesting that. And I know I keep saying you're reinvesting it, but that is going to be the most incremental change you can make is taking that time spent and then going through AMC, figuring out what am I missing in my business, where are there gaps, and plugging those holes. We look at Greenworks again, the same thing. They're saving time overall, growth in total ROAS, increasing reach, and this is all done at a scale that only AI can do. So the new operating model looks a lot more like this. Before, 80% of your time was spent on execution. You had very senior strategists that are well paid, stuck in spreadsheets or stuck in software platforms, making a lot of changes when you want their expertise focused on driving real change in the business and real strategy. And now the new model is a lot different. So 80% of time is focused on strategy, which is what you want to pay an agency for overall. Agency is supposed to be the expert. They're supposed to look across all these different clients that they have and get new insights and perspective. So we want that time to be focused on strategy. And then 20% is no longer execution. It's oversight and just making sure everything is in check. And the AI takes 100% of the execution and the humans there to steer that. So what this looks like a little bit more is you have AI strategists that are planning, what are the setup for AI? How should we be optimizing this? What are the guardrails based on our business scenario? And they're there briefing and interacting with the different models. Then you have now time to have actual performance architects own AMC questions and business logic and figure out how are we actually performing? Is our upper funnel connecting to our lower funnel? Are we leveraging audiences that we need? And are these tactics and tests that we're doing truly incremental? And then you have time for the client lead. So maintain that client relationship, continue to understand their business needs so that you can actually develop the right strategy for your specific client. And then here, again, here's another example of just one of our clients, Woofs. This is leveraging AI through a full funnel campaign. So the key actions that we automated here and leveraged was AMC Audience Intelligence. So when we look at a couple of different models, again, time to conversion, path to conversion can really give you specific audiences to target. Specifically time to conversion, we want to figure out how long it takes for someone from that first ad exposure to actually make a purchase. And with that, you can build very refined retargeting audiences to make sure that you're, one, capturing the shopper in the right amount of time, but also, how long does it take from when someone makes a purchase to actually subscribe and save to my product? So we can generate those insights from AMC and then go ahead and execute it. And then in this scenario, we activated all these audiences across full funnel implementation, including Prime Video, streaming TV, and then on-site display as well. So we'll pause here and take a look at how do we actually start Monday morning now in this world where AI is executing more of our strategy. So when we wake up, our first thing we do is analyze. So we talk to our agent. How was last week's performance? And we're going to leverage our agent for a total performance analysis. Be very, very granular about these are specific trends that we saw every day, how it compared to the week prior. We saw strange performance across these keywords. Ask questions back to you, being like, what could have caused this? Try to gain additional context. And with this, you have this chat feature now. So I'm speaking with my agent about performance, trying to analyze what really happened and what we can do to improve it. And then the next step there is strategize. So what are the priorities we need to execute this week? And you continue that conversation with your agent to develop an action plan to meet those exact goals. So maybe you need to sell through stock on a portion of the catalog. Maybe you have discounts or deals running on some other products. So those are all priorities that your agent can take into account and then help you come up with an action plan to go and execute. And then the next step is action. So we're executing really intelligent action items that are a lot different than what we would have done before. So before, I would have gone through and reviewed performance, set some filters, compared week over week myself, had to sift through the data. But if I'm managing a super large client, how can I possibly go through everything and see everything all at once? Whereas this first step now here, analyze, is a 5-minute process versus 2 or 3 hours on Monday morning. And then the actions are now far more intelligent because we're looking at more data and how that all works in tandem with each other. And through that, we're developing an action plan that's going to be more impactful than before. So with that, we're executing the actions. We can either have the agent go ahead and do it themselves, or it can give me the exact steps to follow, and then I can go and do those in my software of choice. And then the last step is reporting. So this first 3 steps would normally take a whole day. Now this is really just taking the morning. And now I have my whole afternoon freed up to think through reporting. So I'm leveraging these time savings to now go through AMC, do a deeper performance analysis. Maybe there's another area of the business that needs my attention. Maybe we're having issues on the retailer vendor side, and I can help out there. With this, you now have the time freed up to actually go and find other ways to improve performance versus just automating bids. And yeah, I think we'll open it now for Q&A, but that's our new model that we're looking for, and that's what we'll see more in 2026, is this more agent-led workflow overall, where we're not doing the changes ourselves. We're interacting and connecting all of our different data sources together and letting AI do the analysis. Cool? All right. Thank you. Any questions from the crowd?
Would you say this software is more suitable for agencies or brands or both?
Sorry, say that again?
Would you say the software is more suitable for agencies or brands or both?
I really think it's for both. It just depends on your team that you have. So am I running my ads in-house? Also, do I want to own my data? So if you want to own your own data, and leverage it and access it. Even if you have an agency, it can be for a brand itself. But when we think about the workflows and efficiencies that we're trying to solve, we do think those compound better for agencies overall. So short answer, yes for both, but agencies can probably see more economies of scale. Cool.
I mean, you spoke a lot about AMC and then based on AMC and the insight that it's generating, building audiences based on that. What are you doing if the audience is too small? Like, do you have a workaround for that?
Yeah, I think you can go beyond what's the standard audiences that you're offering and, add in additional parameters to increase your audience size. So it's an easy workaround if you have the right tools. Go ahead and do it. Cool. All right. Any other questions? Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, everyone.